The spark. The twin suns of New Kiev sank behind the horizon, casting long shadows over the dusty streets of the human colony. The air smelled of iron and burning fuel as massive Zorian patrol ships docked at the central spaceport, gleaming obsidian craft from a regime that ruled half the known galaxy with cold indifference. Anya Vasilyev, barely 12, sat on the stone steps of the public square, her worn boots swinging as she watched the aliens disembark. She had never seen so many of them this close before, tall, scaled, and cruel-eyed, their armored uniforms shining with imperial insignias. Her fingers clutched a small, handmade wooden doll, one of the last relics from Earth, passed down by her grandmother. Her father had warned her, stay away from them. Don't draw their attention. But curiosity was stronger than fear. And like so many human settlers here, Anya had grown used to the quiet humiliation of being second-class citizens in their own towns. The trouble began when a frail, elderly woman, Mama Petrova, tripped near the market stalls, her small bag of dried herbs spilling across the dust. The old woman bent to gather them, trembling hands working slowly. 3 Zorian soldiers watched, their reptilian faces splitting into cruel grins. One of them, an officer by his red-shouldered armor, walked over and kicked the woman's basket, scattering the contents again. "Move faster, skin bag," the soldier hissed in broken Terran dialect. The other soldiers chuckled, their eyes glinting coldly. The humans nearby lowered their heads, stepping back. No one moved to help. Fear was baked into their bones after years of occupation. Anya felt heat rise in her chest. Something her father once told her, long ago when she asked why he never talked about his past, whispered through her memory. There are times when silence is betrayal. She stepped forward. "Leave her alone," she said, her voice high but steady. The laughter stopped. The alien officer tilted his head. "What did you say, little animal?" Anya swallowed. "I said, leave her alone." For a moment, no one spoke. Even the Zorians seemed surprised by her boldness. And then the officer's clawed hand shot out, lightning fast, and struck Anya across the face. The blow lifted her off her feet. Her head snapped sideways as she crashed into the dirt, the wooden doll flying from her fingers. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone screamed. The soldier spat on the ground, wiping his hand. "Teach your spawn respect," he growled. The other aliens barked harsh laughter as they turned and walked away, their booted steps echoing across the stunned square. Anya lay still, the world spinning. She felt the sharp sting of the blow, the metallic taste of blood in her mouth. Somewhere, Mama Petrova was kneeling beside her, crying softly. News travels fast in small colonies. By nightfall, the entire human quarter of New Kiev knew. The Zorians had struck Anya Vasilyev, and the soldier who did it didn't know who her father was. Inside a modest stone house on the edge of town, Mikhail Vasilyev sat by his daughter's bedside. His large hands, scarred and calloused, gently brushed a damp cloth over the bruise swelling on Anya's pale skin. His face was stone, expressionless, but his eyes were oceans of something deeper. Anya stirred. "Papa! Shoo!" he whispered, his voice soft as snowfall. "Rest." In the corner of the room, the old wooden doll lay broken, one arm snapped off. Mikhail sat there for hours after she drifted back to sleep. He didn't speak. He barely moved. But eventually, when the moons of New Kiev were high and the house was silent, Mikhail stood. He moved to the far wall, pried up an old wooden plank, and reached beneath the floor. His fingers closed around something cold. He pulled out a sealed crate, marked with faded Terran military sigils no one on this colony had seen in decades. His hands trembled, not with fear, but with the weight of memory. For years, he had buried that part of himself. For Anya's sake, for peace. But the past wasn't dead. It had simply been waiting. Mikhail's lips moved silently as he stared at the crate. An old name, a name that had once made warlords shudder, surfaced in his mind. Baba Yaga. And this time, he would not walk away. The unseen hand. The night was cold on New Kiev. The desert winds howled outside the Vasilyev home, but inside, the silence was deeper than any storm. Mikhail Vasilyev sat at the battered wooden table, the old military crate now open before him. Strange devices lay within. Matte black weapons built for stealth, compact explosives, and a faded Terran combat mask etched with small kill marks along its jawline. He hadn't touched these tools in over 15 years. His hands moved methodically, assembling, checking, remembering. Each click of metal, each soft snap of armor plates, sliding into place, brought back memories he'd buried. Worlds burning, silent kills, 1,000 enemies whose names he never learned. And the name that had followed him through all those shadows, Baba Yaga. They had given him that name during the first Galactic conflict. The humans' enemies, terrified of the ghost who left no bodies, no tracks, only whispers. A myth wrapped in flesh. By dawn, Mikhail had vanished into the wild forest beyond New Kiev. The Zorians didn't even notice. They were too busy celebrating their minor victory, too arrogant to suspect that they had awakened something ancient, something human. That morning, the first sign appeared. A Zorian patrol, 5 soldiers, failed to report back from a routine perimeter sweep. Their comms cut out mid-transmission. A search team found nothing. No bodies, no gear, only their boots, neatly placed in a circle with a single human tooth resting in the center. The Iron Talons, an elite division of Zorian enforcers, were immediately dispatched to New Kiev to restore order. Their commander, Colonel Vex Jha, was a towering figure of brutality, known for extinguishing insurgent worlds without mercy. He laughed when his intelligence officers warned him about the old Terran legend. Baba Yaga, the boogeyman? Spare me your ghost stories. He ordered the colony locked down. He demanded names. He threatened executions. But Mikhail was already inside their heads. The attacks escalated over the next 3 nights. A Zorian sergeant was found dismembered in his bunk, the security feeds erased. An entire supply depot exploded at dawn. Its munitions gone, its guards dead without alarm. Each time, no trace of the assailant was found. Only one thing remained, a mark carved into walls, into bodies, into steel, the ancient Terran letter, the Cyrillicia, the symbol of Baba Yaga. Panic took root. Even the Iron Talons, hardened and cruel, whispered behind closed doors. The younger soldiers began refusing night patrols. Some claimed they heard breathing in the shadows, footsteps that left no prints. One soldier went mad, clawing at his own scales, screaming that the darkness was alive. Back in the human quarter, the colonists watched it unfold in stunned disbelief. For years they had been cattle under Zorian boots. For years they had prayed for someone, anyone, to push back. And now someone had. Anya, her face still bruised, sat on the porch steps, her broken doll clutched to her chest. She watched the alien patrols march nervously down the streets. She saw the fear behind their eyes. And when her father returned that night, silent, blood-stained, carrying a sack of stolen alien tech, she said nothing. But she understood. Colonel Vex Jha summoned his entire garrison on the 5th day. Enraged, he ordered public punishments. Civilians were dragged into the square, beaten, accused of harboring the resistance. But no one spoke. Not because they were brave, because they didn't know who the ghost was either. That night, Mikhail made his boldest move yet. He hacked into the colony's central comms grid, an ancient Terran trick, and broadcast a single, chilling message across every speaker, every screen, every device. You hit the child of Baba Yaga. Judgment is coming. The Zorians froze. For the first time in their empire's history, they felt something alien to them. Fear of humans. Vex Jha roared, ordering planetary scans, bio-tracking, arrests. But it was too late. The legend was alive. The whispers spread beyond New Kiev, into nearby colonies, into the ranks of alien fleets. The boogeyman of humanity, the old assassin from forgotten wars, was here. And this time, he wasn't fighting for empires or glory. He was fighting for his daughter. The reckoning begins. The Zorian Empire was built on terror. For centuries, fear had been its weapon, used to subjugate weaker species, to crush rebellion before it could bloom. But on New Kiev, something had shifted. The fear had changed direction. For the first time, the soldiers feared what hunted them. By day, the Zorians roamed the streets with plasma rifles clutched tighter, their gazes twitching at every shadow. By night, they sealed themselves in fortified barracks, speaking in hushed voices of the unseen killer who struck without mercy, without sound. The humans of New Kiev said nothing. They knew who it was. They knew Baba Yaga had returned. In the darkness beyond the colony, Mikhail Vassiliev moved like a phantom. Years of peace had not dulled his instincts. Every breath, every movement was deliberate. He was no longer the weary farmer or the quiet father tending his fields. He was the ghost from the war, the assassin who had once ended entire bloodlines without leaving footprints behind. That part of him, the part he had buried for his daughter's sake, had risen from its grave. And it was hungry. The Iron Talons attempted to set a trap. A decoy patrol of elite soldiers was sent into the forest, baited with false intel about a hidden rebel cell. Every drone, every surveillance scanner, every alien sensor was activated to catch the unseen hand that haunted them. But Mikhail had studied them far longer than they had studied him. The soldiers vanished before they could fire a single shot. The next morning, their weapons were found neatly stacked beneath the Baba Yaga mark. No bodies, no blood, just silence. Colonel Vex, Ja, was unraveling. His once commanding voice had grown hoarse with rage. His hands trembled as he barked orders. He brought down martial law on the human sector. Raids, beatings, public threats. But fear doesn't respect authority. It grows where authority fails. And every time his men disappeared, his legend, Mikhail's legend, grew stronger. Anya Vassiliev sat quietly on her bed, clutching the repaired wooden doll her father had fixed by hand. Her bruises had faded, but her heart felt heavier each day. She barely saw her father now. He left before dawn, returned after midnight, always moving like something distant and hollow-eyed. She wasn't sure which was worse. The fear she once felt when the aliens ruled unchallenged, or the new fear that came from knowing what her father truly was. Mama Petrova, the old woman Anya had tried to defend, visited that evening. She placed a hand on Anya's shoulder and whispered, "Your father, I remember stories from the old Earth Wars. He was not a soldier. He was a myth. The kind of man they sent when even hope had died." Anya didn't reply. She just looked out the window, where distant fires burned in the alien outposts. The reckoning had begun in earnest. Mikhail escalated his campaign with surgical precision. He infiltrated the enemy's command center disguised as a maintenance worker, planting EMP bombs that crippled Zorian communications for days. He ambushed convoys using magnetic mines buried beneath dusty roads. He sent encrypted transmissions to human resistance networks across the nearby sectors, igniting sparks of rebellion. But his war was not about symbols or politics. It was personal. The final straw came when a Zorian officer, desperate to break human spirits, executed 2 innocent settlers in the square. That night, Mikhail struck back. The officer's quarters were breached without a sound. His guards were found unconscious, alive but comatose. The officer himself was discovered hanging upside down from the colony's central tower, his own sidearm embedded in his skull. Pinned to his chest was a note. For Anya. Colonel Vex, Ja, called for planetary reinforcements. The Empire responded by dispatching a warship, the dreadnought Dawn of Tsar, to glass the colony if necessary. The Zorians were done playing games. But so was Mikhail. He had prepared for this. Deep beneath New Kiev, buried in forgotten bunkers from humanity's early expansion era, he unearthed ancient Terran defense systems. Lasers, kinetic shields, and orbital strike cannons dormant for decades. As the warship approached, Mikhail set the final phase in motion. The legend of Baba Yaga was no longer a whisper. It was the storm on the horizon. Judgment Day. The dawn of Tsar loomed in New Kiev's sky, an obsidian dagger slicing through the clouds, its mass casting shadows miles wide. Designed to annihilate entire planets, it bristled with plasma cannons and fusion torpedoes. To the Zorian Empire, this was overkill. To Mikhail Vasilyev, it was exactly what he'd expected. The alien high command issued an ultimatum. Surrender the insurgent known as Baba Yaga within 24 hours, or the colony would be obliterated. The human settlers gathered in silent clusters, faces pale, children clutched to mothers. No one spoke of surrender. No one pointed fingers. They all knew. If Mikhail fell, so would every last human on New Kiev. Anya stood among them, her small hand gripping her broken doll, her eyes locked on the sky. Mikhail moved through the underground tunnels like a shadow. In hidden chambers long abandoned by human governments, he activated forgotten defense systems buried deep in the colony's bones. Old Earth technology, primitive by modern standards but deadly when used by the right hands. Massive anti-orbital cannons, missile silos, EMP grids, silent for decades, roared back to life under his touch. The systems were fragile, rusted, but they would hold. Long enough. He strapped on the last pieces of his black combat armor. The old Terran skull insignia across his chest, still faintly visible beneath scarring and grime. He was no longer Mikhail Vasilyev the farmer. He was Baba Yaga, and this time they had touched his child. The first strike came without warning. As the dawn of Tsar locked targeting coordinates on New Kiev, surface-to-orbit missiles burst from hidden silos, slamming into the warship's shields. The sky lit up in an explosion of fire and plasma. The warship staggered, systems faltering. Simultaneously, ground-based EMP blasts crippled Zorian hover tanks and communication arrays. The Iron Talons, once feared across 100 worlds, found themselves blind, deaf, and surrounded. Mikhail's final phase commenced. He moved like death through the battlefield, silent, unstoppable. One by one, Zorian squads were neutralized. No wasted shots. No wasted breath. Colonel Vex Jha, desperate and enraged, deployed his personal guard. He broadcast a challenge across open comms. "Face me, coward. Face me, Baba Yaga." Mikhail answered. The two met in the shattered remains of New Kiev's command post. Jha, a monstrous figure in powered battle armor, raised a plasma axe. Mikhail, in worn black combat gear, held only a modified Terran pulse rifle and a combat blade. "Why fight?" Jha sneered. "Your people are weak. They kneel. They beg. You're nothing but a myth. A ghost." Mikhail's voice was low-cold. "Then why are you afraid?" Jha roared and charged. The battle was brutal. Speed against brute strength, precision against fury. Mikhail weaved through Jha's strikes, his every movement economical, surgical. His blade flashed, slicing through armor joints. His rifle barked, targeting weak points. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, Mikhail's blade pierced through Jha's neck joint. The alien choked, dropped to his knees, and stared up, real terror in his reptilian eyes. "Who are you?" Jha rasped. Mikhail knelt close, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm the father of the girl you hit." With one clean motion, he finished it. The warship, crippled by sabotage and surface fire, pulled back. The Zorian Empire, for all its pride, chose retreat over annihilation. The colony stood, scar-battered but alive. When Mikhail returned to the human quarter, dawn was breaking. The first light touched the dusty streets as he approached his home. Anya was there, waiting, her eyes wide but unafraid. For a long moment, father and daughter said nothing. Then Anya whispered, "Papa, you came back." He knelt, pulling her into his arms, his voice rough with exhaustion. "Always." Her small hand rested on his blood-stained armor. "Are you Baba Yaga?" He smiled faintly, sad, tired. "I was, but I'm just your father." She pressed her face into his chest and nodded. That was all she needed to hear. In the days that followed, the Zorian Empire sealed off New Kiev, too humiliated to risk another open defeat. Across distant human colonies, whispers spread of a man, a myth, who rose from obscurity when the innocent were harmed. The name Baba Yaga once again drifted through the stars, not as a soldier, not as an assassin, but as a father,